Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. Before we read, let's invoke the blessing of the Lord. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ईश्वरा परमा कृष्णः सच्चिदानन्दविग्रहः अनादिरादिर्गोविन्दः सर्वकारणकारणम्। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, we have been reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, and we have been reading the introduction, the life and concept of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, let's continue reading. The impersonal description of the absolute truth in the Vedas is given to nullify the mundane conception of the absolute whole. Personal features of the Lord are completely different from all kinds of mundane features. The living entities are individual persons and they are part and parcel of the supreme whole. If the part and parcels are individual persons, the sole source of their emanation must not be impersonal. He is the supreme person amongst all relative persons. The Vedas inform us that from him, Brahman, everything emanates, and on him everything rests. After annihilation, everything merges in him only. Therefore, he is the ultimate dative, causative, and accommodative cause of all causes. And these causes cannot be attributed to an impersonal object. Vedas inform us that he alone became many, and when he so desires, he glances over material nature. Before he glanced over material nature, there was no material cosmic creation. Therefore, his glance is not material. Material mind or senses were unborn when the Lord glanced over material nature. Thus, evidence in the Vedas proves that beyond a doubt that the Lord has transcendental eyes and transcendental mind. They are not material. His impersonality, therefore, is a negation of his materiality, but not a denial of his transcendental personality. Brahman ultimately refers to the personality of Godhead. Impersonal Brahman realization is just the negative conception of mundane creation. Paramatma is the localized aspect of Brahman within all kinds of material bodies. Ultimately, the supreme Brahman realization is the realization of personality of Godhead according to the all evidence of the revealed scriptures. He is the ultimate source of Vishnu Tattva. Puranas are also supplementary to the Vedas. Vedic mantras are too difficult for an ordinary man, woman, Shudras, and so called twice born higher caste are unable to penetrate into the sense of the Vedas. And thus, Mahabharata and Puranas are made easy to explain the truths of the Vedas. In his prayers before the boy Sri Krishna, Brahma said that there is no limit to the fortune of the residents of Rajabhumi, headed by Sri Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai, because the eternal absolute truth has become their intimate relative. The Vedic mantra maintains that the absolute truth has no legs, no hands, yet goes faster than all and accepts everything that is offered to him in devotion. The latter statement definitely suggests the personal feature of the Lord. Although his hands and legs are distinguished from the mundane hands and legs or other senses. Brahman, therefore, is never impersonal. But when such mantras are indirectly interpreted, it is wrongly thought that the absolute truth is impersonal. The absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is full of all opulences, and therefore he has a transcendental form of full existence, knowledge, and bliss. How then can one establish that the absolute truth is impersonal? Brahman, being full of opulences, is understood to have manifold energies, and all these energies are classified under three headings under the authority of Vishnu Purana, which says that the transcendental energy of the Lord, Vishnu, are primarily three: his spiritual energy and the energy of the living entities are classified as, as superior energy, whereas the material energy is an inferior one, which is sprouted out of ignorance. The energy of the living entity is technically called Kshetragna energy. This Kshetragna Shakti, although equal in quality with the Lord, becomes overpowered becomes overpowered by material energy out of ignorance, thus suffers all sorts of material miseries. In other words, the living entities are located in the marginal energy between the superior spiritual and the inferior material energy. And in proportion to the living being's contact with either material or spiritual energy, living entity is situated in proportionally higher or lower level of existence. The Lord is beyond the inferior and marginal energy as above mentioned, and his spiritual energy is manifested in three different phases as eternal existence, eternal bliss, and eternal knowledge. As far as eternal existence is concerned, it is conducted by Sandhini potency. Similarly, bliss and knowledge are conducted by Haladni and Samvit potencies, respectively. As the supreme energetic Lord, he is the supreme controller of the spiritual, marginal, and material energies. And all these different types of energies are connected with the Lord in eternal devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is thus enjoying in his transcendental eternal form. Is it not astounding that one dares to call the Supreme Lord non energetic? The Lord is the controller of all energies, and the living entities are parts and parcel of the one of the energies. Therefore, there is a gulf of difference between the Lord and the living entities. How then one can say that Lord and living entities are one and the same? In Bhagavad Gita also, living entities are described as belonging to superior energy of the Lord. According to the principles of intimate correlation between energy and energetic, both of them are non-different also. Therefore, Lord and the living entities are non-different as the energy and energetic. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego are all inferior energies of the Lord. But the living entities are different from all as superior energy. This is the version of Bhagavad Gita 7.4 to 5. His transcendental form of the Lord is eternally existent and full of transcendental bliss. How then one can such a form be a product of material mode of goodness? Anyone, therefore, who does not believe in the form of the Lord is certainly a faithless demon, and as such is untouchable, a not to be seen persona non grata fit. not to be seen as persona non grata fit to be punished by Plutonic king. The Buddhists are called atheists because they have no respect for Vedas. But those who defy the Vedic conclusion, as above mentioned, under the pretense of being followers of Vedas, are verily more dangerous than the Buddhist. Sri Vyasadeva very kindly compiled the Vedic knowledge in Vedanta Sutra. But if one hears the commentation of Mayavada school as represented by Shankara Sampradaya, certainly he will be misled on the path of spiritual realization. The theory of emanations is the beginning subject of Vedanta Sutras. All cosmic manifestations are emanations from the absolute personality of Godhead by his inconceivable different energies. The example of the touchstone is applicable to the theory of emanation. The just touchstone can convert an unlimited quantity of iron into gold, and still the touchstone remains as it is. Similarly, Supreme Lord can produce all manifested worlds by his inconceivable energies, and yet he is full and unchanged. He is Purna, complete, and although an unlimited number of Puranas emanate from him, he is still Purana. The theory of illusion of Mayavadi school is advocated on the ground that theory of emanation will cause a transformation of the absolute truth. If that is the case, Vyasadeva is wrong. To avoid this, they will have they have skillfully brought into the theory of illusion. But the world or cosmic creation is not false, as maintained by Mayavada school. It simply has no permanent existence. A non-permanent thing cannot be called false altogether. But the conception that the material body is the self is certainly wrong. Pranava, Om, or the Omkara in the Vedas is the primeval hymn. This transcendental sound is identical with the form of the Lord. All Vedic hymns are based on this Pranava Omkara. Tat Tattvamasi is but a side word in the Vedic literature, and therefore this word cannot be primeval hymn of the Vedas. Sripada Shankaracharya has given more stress on the side word Tat Tvam Asi than on the primeval principle Omkara. The Lord thus spoke on the Vedanta Sutra and defied all the propaganda of the Mayavada school. The Bhattacharya tried to defend himself and his Mayavada school by jugglery of logic and grammar. But the Lord defeated him by his forceful arguments. He affirmed that we are all related with the personality of Godhead eternally, and that devotional service is our eternal function in exchanging the dealings of our relations. The result of such exchanges is to attain prema, or love of Godhead. When love of Godhead is attained, love for all other beings automatically follows because the Lord is sum total of all living beings. The Lord said that but for these three items, namely eternal relation with the God, exchange of dealing with Him, and attainment of love for Him, all that is instructed in Vedas is superfluous and concocted. The Lord further added that the Mayavada philosophy taught by Sripad Shankaracharya is an imaginary explanation of the Vedas, but it had to be taught by him, Shankaracharya, because he was ordered to teach it by personality of Godhead. In Padma Puran, it is stated that personality of Godhead ordered his lordship Shiva to deviate the human race from him, the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead was to be so covered so that people would be encouraged to generate more and more population. His Lordship Shiva said to Devi, in Kali Yuga, I shall preach the Mayavada philosophy, which is nothing but clouded Buddhism, in the garb of a Brahmana. After hearing all these speeches of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Bhattacharya was struck with wonder and awe and regarded him in a dead silence. The Lord then encouraged him with assurance that there was no cause to wonder. I say the devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. He is the highest goal of human life. He then quoted a shloka from Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse 10, and assured him that even liberated souls who are absorbed in the spirit and spiritual realization also take to the devotional service of the Lord Hari, because personality of Godhead has such transcendental qualities that he attracts the heart of the liberated soul too. Then Bhattacharya desired to listen to the explanation of the Atma Rama shloka from Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse 10. The Lord first of all asked Bhattacharya to explain it, and after that he would explain it. Bhattacharya then explained the shloka in a scholarly way with special reference to logic. He explained the shloka in 9 different ways, chiefly based on logic, because he was the most renowned scholar of the logic of the time. The Lord, after hearing Bhattacharya, thanked him for the scholarly presentation of the shloka. Then, at the request of Bhattacharya, the Lord explained the shloka in 64 different ways without touching the 9 explanations given by the Bhattacharya. Thus, after hearing the explanation of Atmarama shloka from the Lord, the Bhattacharya was convinced that such a scholarly presentation is impossible for an earthly creation. Before this, Sri Gopinath Acharya had tried to convince him of the divinity of the Lord, but at the time he could not accept him. But Bhattacharya, astounded by the Lord's exposition of the Vedanta Sutra, an explanation of the Atmarama Shloka, and thus he began to think that he had committed a great offense at the lotus feet of the Lord by not recognizing him to be Krishna himself. He then surrendered unto him, repenting for his past dealings with him, and Lord was kind enough to accept the Bhattacharya. Out of his causeless mercy, the Lord manifested it before him, first as four-handed Narayana, and then again as two-handed Lord Krishna with a flute in his hand. So we'll stop here. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिला व्यास देव की जय, शिला चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जय. So now we will read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj ki jai. So we have been reading from volume 6 and we finished first chapter, Reaching to America part 1. Today we are starting, sorry, that was second chapter. Today we are starting chapter 3, Preaching to America part 2. Los Angeles, July 22nd, 1975. More than 3 weeks had passed since Prabhupada had given the order for the BBT to produce 17 books in 2 months. Now Rameshwara and Radha Vallabha reported that work was going on around the clock in all departments and that devotees were determined to meet their deadlines. Most press workers attended Mangala Arati at 4:30 a.m., chanted their prescribed rounds of japa, and worked all day until late at night, sometimes taking only one meal. Additional editors, painters, photographers, indexers, typists, proofreaders, layout men had been called in from other ISKCON departments. Everyone was cooperating to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's desire. It was as though nothing else existed except the task before them. King's Sport Press, one of the largest printers in the country, had taken the job of printing, agreeing to push back all other assignments to free their presses and bindery for work 20 hour 24 hours a day until all 17 volumes were printed. A paper company in New York had agreed to supply paper at affordable terms to meet all the deadlines. The BBT's top photographer was in India photographing places of Chaitanya Leela, especially in Bengal and Odisha. Srila Prabhupada freely gave his time to the artist and the Bengali editors, answering their questions. Several times a day, his disciples would come to him about the exact use of Sanskrit and Bengali words. This was not a merely matter of lingual scholarship, since each word had to be translated in light of previous acharyas' explanations and Prabhupada's own Krishna conscious realization. Prabhupada had cautioned disciple editors not to change but to ask. The artists had their usual questions about how things should look according to Srila Prabhupada's transcendental vision. In their desire to have paintings completely accurate, they were greedy to ask him almost endless questions. Prabhupada had said the transcendental paintings of his disciples were windows to the spiritual world, and artists did not want their imagination to obscure the view. One day, Rameshwara came into Srila Prabhupada's room carrying canvases by one of the artists, whose proficiency the more experienced artist questioned. The artist in question, Gauri Devi Dasi, was a book distributor with artistic talent pressed onto emergency services for the book production marathon. Rameshwara showed Srila Prabhupada her paintings of Gundicha temple. Prabhupada's verdict: "Oh, this is very nice." One of the senior artists was present and pointed out several technical errors. But Prabhupada replied, "A blind uncle is better than the none." Besides, he said, the painting showed a devotional spirit the readers of the book would appreciate. Due to Srila Prabhupada's presence in Los Angeles, the book production marathon intensified. Even without attending Prabhupada's morning walks or classes or evening readings in the garden, the press workers felt ecstasy. All day they worked at what Prabhupada wanted most. And to take time off to go see him, they reasoned would be selfish. Giving all their energy for Krishna, they felt blissful. The press was busy day and night. To see devotees slumped over their desks or typewriters or lying beside their easels at 2 or 3 in the morning was not unusual. Proofreaders saw the manuscript came into and out of their hands so quickly they could hardly bear it. An artist might fall asleep before an uncompleted painting and awaken to find it being finished at another artist's easel. Rameshwara, running on a very little sleep, orchestrated everything, included photographer in India, the printer, and the paper company. Sometimes he would work directly with the Radha Vallabha on various aspects of the production. Radha Vallabha had set the deadlines and he kept to them at all cost. To press workers, he seemed to be present everywhere, encouraging them, bringing them supplies, seeing to their needs, and begging and coercing them to complete their quotas. But one night he took a break and entered Prabhupada's room during an informal gathering of devotees. Prabhupada, his eyes closed, his head gently rocking, was listening to a tape of himself singing bhajanas. Opening his eyes and seeing Radha Vallabha seated among the others, he said, "I am keeping you," and again closed his eyes. One of the devotees spoke and said, "Oh, no, no, Prabhupada, you are not bothering us." But another devotee turned to Radha Vallabha and said, "I think Prabhupada was talking to you." Radha Vallabha realized that what Prabhupada meant. He was telling him to go back to work. It was as if Prabhupada were actually saying, "Why are you sitting here looking at me? Get back to work." Srila Prabhupada was pleased with the sincerity of his disciples. 17 books in 2 months he had asked them to produce, and they, rather than try to explain to him why this was impossible, had taken the order so seriously that they could not conceive of rejecting or changing or modifying it. Instead of modifying the order, they had modified their lives. They had gone beyond the realm of routine work into the realm of extraordinary effort. As a result, both they and Prabhupada felt great satisfaction. As Prabhupada said, it was an all arrangement for the satisfaction of Lord Chaitanya and previous acharyas. Srila Prabhupada decided his US tour, visiting Laguna Beach and San Diego, and then going into Dallas. From there, he would visit New Orleans and nearby Iscon Farm in Mississippi, then on to the Detroit, Toronto, Boston, and New York, eventually traveling to Europe and India. From Prabhupada's point of view, his touring was imperative for spreading Krishna consciousness. And he had said in his arrival address at Berkeley, I am traveling all over the world twice, thrice in a year. My duty is to see that my disciples who have accepted me as Guru may not fall down. That is my anxiety. Prabhupada's concern was for his disciples, but also for all people. Distressed by the fallen and ignorant state of humanity, especially in the West, he wanted to help the English speaking world as his spiritual master had ordered. This had been his spirit 2 years ago in Calcutta when he had risen from his sick bed and flown to London to take part in the Rath Yatra. This was his great desire to preach in the West, where people were so strongly under the grip of speculative philosophies, denying God and glorifying sense enjoyment. The mass of people would not easily change their ignorant ways, but if he could make only one person a pure devotee, he said, then his work would be successful. Prabhupada would work intensively with his important India projects for a few months, but then would always return to the West to again tour and preach. Both were required, developing his projects in India and touring the West. When Yogi Bhajan and company in Berkeley had expressed their amazement at how Prabhupada was personally maintaining his disciples by traveling all over the world, Prabhupada had admitted that it was difficult and that he was trying to train his GBC secretaries to lead the movement. And so far, it seemed that as long as he had power to do so, he would continue to travel. Next, Laguna Beach, July 25, 1975. Laguna Beach was about a 2 hour drive south of Los Angeles. The temple, a house near the beach, was crowded with guests and visiting devotees. After Prabhupada had taken his seat upon the newly upholstered Vyasasana, some of the temple leaders came forward one at a time and bathed his feet. In the course of his lecture, Prabhupada spoke against taking intoxicating drugs. Is there anyone here who can say, I am the controller? Is there anyone who will answer this? You may think that you are controller, but you are controlled by drugs. The city of Laguna Beach was notorious as an illicit drug center. Prabhupada had come not to flatter anyone with sentimental spirituality, but to cut through their illusion. Bathing the feet of spiritual master was good, but to be genuine devotee, one had to be strictly follow the regulation. One had to choose whether to be controlled by drugs or by Krishna. Prabhupada stayed next door to the temple in a neighbor's house. His first visitor was Rishidasa, who had given up his initiation vows and fallen away from Krishna consciousness. Sporting long curly hair and a beard, he had casually dropped by to pay a little visit to his former spiritual master. Prabhupada received Rishi warmly, and they both exchanged smiles and laughed. Rishi's demeanor, however, was brazen, almost defiant. He showed no contrition. Prabhupada was not very happy to see the state of his this boy to whom he had awarded a sannyasa order a few years before. In earlier years, Prabhupada had cried when a dear disciple had left him. In those days, a fall of a disciple had been rare, almost unheard of. But over the years, Prabhupada had seen more casualties, even among his GBC leaders and sannyasis. In 1967, when one of his first disciples, Krishna Devi Dasi, had left her husband, Subala, and gone off with boyfriend, Prabhupada had consoled Subala by reminding him how rare it was that one could become a devotee of Krishna. The wonderful thing is not that Krishna Dasi has left, Srila Prabhupada has said, but that we can stay in Krishna consciousness. Although devotees left Krishna conscious for various reasons, Srila Prabhupada saw them all as having been tricked by illusion. The result was almost always the same, whether defector left on the plea of a new religion or new economic opportunities or whatever, usually he and she would take up a life of sense gratification, abandoning the strict path of self realization. This was certainly true of Rishi. When Prabhupada asked him what he was doing with his life, he laughed and said he was playing saxophone. There was no need to ask him whether he was chanting 16 rounds or following four rules. But Rishi wanted to assure Srila Prabhupada that he was doing fine. I think I have more freedom now, said Rishi. Do you think you have freedom? Prabhupada challenged. Some, Rishi replied, by studying and working. What is your age? Prabhupada asked. 29. Are you free not to become older? Srila Prabhupada persisted. No. Then what is your freedom? Rishi gave a short laugh. I don't care. That's all right, Prabhupada replied. But I'm researching. I'm now 78. I don't wish to die, but I'm forced. But you too are forced to become old. No one wants to become old. Recalling some of the Krishna conscious philosophy, Rishi tried to argue against Prabhupada, saying that although he was forced to grow old according to transmigration of soul, he would be free from death. And anyway, there were other freedoms. Prabhupada stuck to his original point and said, death is inevitable. Old age no one wants. Everyone wants youth. Even an old man goes to the beach for health. I want youth, but I cannot have it. So where is the freedom? Prabhupada then spoke at length and for Rishi's benefit as well as for the benefit of other devotees in the room. Persons under the influence of Maya, he said, declared that they are free. The drug addict or drunkard thinks he is free to lie down on the street, yet his actions involve him in strict laws of material nature. The outlaw declares himself free from the laws of the state, but he is put into jail. What is the use of saying he is free? Therefore, Krishna says, Prabhupada explained, that whatever little freedom you have got, just surrender that freedom to me. So, in the interest of time, we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Anybody has any question, comments, realization, chastisement before we continue chanting?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanu Pranam. A very nice lecture, Prabhuji. The one where they said, where's the freedom when you don't have, like, when you have so many wants, where's the freedom? So, yes,
Yes.
thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you for lecture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mother. Yes. Because, Srila Prabhupada was reminding his disciple, actually reminding us, reminding me, because we think that freedom, and this is the nature, the Maya, that all of us know, right? In next 40, 50 years, we'll be winding up this world. But still our attachment still remains, isn't it? So mind-boggling and wonderful. We know all these things, We know that our grandfather get old, he died, right? But still our attachment remains same. And the freedom, literally, where is the freedom? You know. So somebody asked that Maharaj, you say control. You see now, you know, in Dubai we have all the air conditioned. It's so hot outside, but you see, we we control, and then we see we are in AC, so we are not suffering with the heat. And Maharaj said that no, when you say control, that you compromised. That hey, I I can only limit myself within that room. If you really have control, why don't you go and cool down the sun in June month? Can any scientist do that to cool down the sun in June month, right? But rather they say, oh, we cannot cool down the sun, but let me cool down my small room. So the compromise. So where is the freedom? Where is the control? Actually, every step we are controlled, governed by Krishna. Like slight change in the weather and we get sick. The where is the freedom? Why we get sick, right? So this birth, old age, disease, and death, they are behind us there. As in another song, right, we played, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that we put this death as a garland. We accept it as a garland here. But we are spiritual. We are not this body. We are inside this body. Just like we wear pant and shirt, but we are different. Similarly, our we are spiritual. As in the Bhagavatam, right? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining to Bhattacharya. It was so nice that we are spiritual entity. We are not material. We belong to spiritual world. And that is why, everything we get, we buy, when we buy a new home, we are so excited, right? So pleasurable. After some time, same home, does it give pleasure? Even people nowadays keep changing home after only 5 years, isn't it? When we get married, right? Initially we come home early, right? And after two children, then that guy does not want to come home, isn't it? So everything, this society is cheating us. Start from one bottle of milk. We smile when a child drinks one bottle of milk. Child smile, right? Then he get a toy, then he smile. Then he got small bicycle, then he smile. Then he got bigger motorbike, then he smile. Then he went into college, get a girlfriend, he smile. Then he get a wife, then he smile. So he smile, but whatever he achieved, he dissatisfied. That's why he moved to the next smile, isn't it? He keep thinking that, oh, now I acquire this, then I will be always happy. Then say, oh no, when I have a children, I will be happy. And then when he get old, then say, no, no, when I have a grandchildren, then I will be more happy. And then at the last, cough and die. And again, continue the next life, same uh, lunchbox, right? You get father, mother, you get children, wife, and next family. Again, do the same stuff. Oh, I want to be happy. So this living entity, we keep going. We have crossed 8.4 million species. We tried all the 8.4 million species. Now we are in human birth. Now this human birth can decide where we can go. And that's why Lord put the option. Lord says, see, I introduced you in human birth. I introduced you to all the Vaishnavas. I sent my messenger, Srila Prabhupada. All the teachings are in front of you. I gave you the spiritual master. Now you choose where you want to go. Just like government officer, if uses his capabilities and the assigned duties, he get promoted, and he does not do get demoted. So similarly, this human birth now is a junction. It can promote us back to Godhead, Vaikuntha, or it can demote us to another species of life. So nice. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that seventh canto, 10th chapter, 11th verse, he explained 64 times. 64 types he explained. That's the Lord. All right. Anybody has any other question or realization before we continue chanting? Okay. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय. So thank you, dear devotees, for listening to me, and please forgive me if I have not read properly.